Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Free-to-Play Cast, brought to you by MMObomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. This is episode 193, right? 193? Yeah, 193. We're recording on August 31st. You're watching it September 1st or later. I'm Mike Byrne, aka Magicman, your host for today. With me to chat about some really awkward PR, pretty much across the board this week. Just really, really awkward PR. Mr. Jason Winter, how are you, sir?
I am the expert on really awkward things, so that makes sense you'd have me on to talk about this.
Abso-frickin-lutely. Also from Free-to-Play Weekly, speaking of awkward, Zach Sharps.
Awkward? What?
Well, you only did 2 shows this week. Two Free-to-Play Weekly videos this week.
That just shows how much the PR had me confused. So
yeah,
I mean,
and it doesn't get any better. It just didn't. It didn't get any better, and we have like minuscule updates where it's. We'll get to it. It's just it's been a really weird week. So let's jump into it. Maybe. Here we go. All right, so first up, it looks like Revelation Online, being published by My.com here in the West, will be free-to-play. And our first clue this week was, predictably, the release of Founders Packs. And the Founders Packs had the usuals in it, in-game goodies, but it also had a premium service amount of time from 30, 60, 90 days, that type of deal. And so upon first glance, you think, okay, well then this is definitely going to be free to play. Heretofore, they had not announced a payment model. They kept it very close to the vest, and the FAQ said not ready to talk about it. But with premium time in there, you can kind of assume, all right, this is going to be free to play. That's not to say that there aren't buy-to-play games that sell a premium time, Secret World being one, that's a perfect example. But you usually see that in a free-to-play Founders Pack. The announcement to further push it to the free-to-play... I'm going to slide Zach over. There you go. So my free-to-play cast logo showing up. The announcement itself started with them basically confirming a free-to-play model. Now, they didn't update their FAQ. They didn't put out a big announcement on just the free-to-play model itself. It was just the announcement for the Founders Packs that started with the sentence, disclosing a free-to-play business model. Revelation Online's beta for Europe and North America is planned for October 2016. So great. So far, guys, right? They said we're disclosing a free-to-play model, and here's some Founders Packs. Business as usual as far as the PR goes, right? It's fine. Maybe they should have made a bigger announcement about it, but it's all there. Right?
More or less.
More or less, yeah.
And then things get confusing. Because in that same post, the English community manager made a couple of comments that it's hard to figure out how they should be taken. In response to questions about how much is premium time going to be, how much are, the cash shop, things like that, not only did they reply, did Caden reply that, we're not ready to talk about premium time prices and cash shop prices, but they also went back and threw in that wording again of we're not ready to talk about business model, which kind of confused things. In response to how much is subscription time and how much is this, okay, but then you put the words business model in there and confused it again, Zach, and even you were confused with Free-to-Play Weekly this week, huh?
I was insanely confused because number one, because normally when I see a Founders Pack article, I immediately just sort of scroll down to the Founders Packs, right? I mean, I guess it's like a normal situation. So I didn't see that little tiny sentence that said disclosing the free-to-play model. So of course I said, oh, well, obviously they didn't announce it then, right? Well, apparently that wasn't the case. So I had to do an update. And what was really weird is I don't think I've seen for a while a company do that in a sense, where it's just like a little tiny, we're trying to hide this because we don't want to like make this is going to be a free-to-play game. Like the full tag on the website, everything. It's like they're kind of scared from calling it a free-to-play game at this point because the CMs are still, spouting the business model, at least Caden is. and then also the FAQ as well. It's a really odd situation. A really odd situation. Like if they're fully committed to this, why not just announce it?
Yeah, and it didn't
Like
get any
full
better.
announcement.
The question that Caden was answering in the forum post, Jason, was you guys going to release how much the premium is per month, or really cash shop prices in general? That'll make things easier to calculate as far as pack worth goes. Now, that's a whole separate discussion right now, is that there's a lot of players that are eager for Revelation Online that just don't think the Founders Packs are worth it, and that there aren't, typical things in there like name reservation, things like that. We're going to sidestep that for a minute because we'll come back to it in a post that was put up a little more recent. And Caden's reply was, at the moment, we're not able to release any information regarding the business model or cash shop prices in general. So it was almost like I would have expected them to say, Jason, yeah, we don't know how much we're going to charge for premium service or cash shop. We'll get back to you. But throwing the word business model back in there. And then later in the thread, when people are speculating about business model, because it's unclear from your posts what you're doing, Caden, again, directs everybody back to, if you want to speculate about what our business model is, go to this what's the best business model to use post. In other words, saying we still haven't decided yet. It just got really bizarre.
Yeah, and what have I always said about anything, especially regarding free-to-play games, or I suppose any game in particular? Once you talk about the money, you have to be completely and utterly perfect in your messaging. You can't screw that up at all, or it just causes misconceptions, causes confusion, gonna piss people off when they think they're buying something that they shouldn't be, or that it's not worth whatever. Just look at No Man's Sky, just as an example right there. But yeah, especially, and it's something that they just always tend to screw up, is they will just screw up how they're announcing their money system and give you partial information and think, oh, that'll be enough. People will figure it out and they'll be willing to throw their money at us. And granted, some people will. I'm sure they sold plenty of the $90 or $100, whatever they were, Founders Packs, but the vast majority of people are going to want to know to the penny what their money is going towards, and they really did not do a good job explaining this and selling it properly.
So that was Thursday-ish of last week. And then Friday happened, and the German community manager, Fane, took to the forums to release some clarification regarding the Founder Pack. And this is where the value of the Founders Pack comes in, and some noticeable things missing, and without prices, like you said, Jason, you got to release it all. Without prices on how much is this stuff going to cost in the cash shop, is the price of the Founders Pack really worth it? And that's what people started to dig into. Now, I'm not going to read the whole post. You can check it out, but there were things missing like name reservation, the fact that the Founders Pack is character bound, and some various extra character slot things. There's no such offer. We haven't locked down this aspect. Basically saying, hey, even our Founders Packs, we were in a hurry to reveal them, and looking at the reception. Yeah, right? Looking at the reception, we probably should have held back until we had more details, like how much is this stuff. But in this post, there are a few key things I do want to call out here. To question one should really ask, is it really such a critical issue? The answer they gave is, Founders Packs remain optional as our business model is free to play. So again, kind of confirming the free to play. Later in that post, in that same post, there's a blurb about the lack of detailed business model / premium cost. So I have to think at this point some of this is getting lost in translation. If you read the community member or the community moderators' posts, they tend to be, and even the announcements, they tend to be in almost a Google Translate type English in general. So I think we're losing some of this in translation, and that's where most of the confusion is coming in. They reply with, here again, would the determination of all these variable aspects were set in stone. See what I mean? The Google Translate. We would have communicated them already, but at this moment we are still under finalization of terms with our partners, and we can't orient the decision of players until we're confident of the accuracy of the information provided. We have to concede we didn't expect such interest in the community for packs, as we're meant to be free to play, and Founders Packs should only concern a fraction of our members. So at the end of the day, oh, and they sum it up with good news, it can only get better from here.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, Revelation Online, free to play, confirmed, But the FAQ still says not confirmed yet. But it's free to play. It has to be free to play. There's so many mentions of we're a free to play game, we're a free to play game, we're a free to play game, that I think when they're referring to business model now, they're looking more at premium costs, and they're just not ready to discuss that. Most of us, I predicted buy to play, but it should be free to play. Zach, I think you took the same. That it'll probably be buy to play, but it should be free to play. Jason, I think you were the only one, if I remember correctly, that said free to play on this one. Am I remembering correctly, or do I have to go back and watch this?
I think I remember. I don't remember what I said, but I think I remember I said something different from you two. So I think maybe you're right there.
So
it was like 3-4 weeks ago, man.
So then you are not surprised by this at all.
No, not so much. I mean, I think that they, again, being from my.com and being with those people, I think it made more sense that it would only be free to play. I think, on some level, we've kind of overthought things a bit when we see stuff like Black Desert coming over and being free to play in other territories, being buy to play here. I think we may have overthought that a bit and thought that that's the new thing, whereas maybe that's more of the aberration rather than the new normal. That free to play, especially for an Asian game coming over to the West, that's generally going to be how it goes. So you look at, we still have Blade and Soul came over earlier this year. I want to say there's something else. Well, I mean, you look at Tree of Savior, Riders of Icarus, that sort of stuff. So I think that's still more or less the norm. We're going to see more of those than we do the buy-to-play games.
Yeah, the only reason why I was thinking it was going to be buy-to-play is because Albion Online swapped from free-to-play, and they were full-on free-to-play at the beginning, and then they swapped buy-to-play. Then Atlas Reactor swapped from free-to-play to buy-to-play back to free-to-play / buy-to-play. And then also Black Desert obviously came over, was supposed to be free-to-play from what everyone thought because the other regions were free, and then ended up being buy-to-play. So that's why I thought it was going to be possibly buy-to-play just because of the trends. But I was still thinking that unless they wanted to shoot themselves in the foot, they would just make it free-to-play. So, I mean...
Yeah, I don't know if I agree, Jason, that we overthought this one. I think there was some long discussions and thoughts about going buy to play on this one. Hence all the rapid fire confusion on some of these things. Now, I think if it was always going to be free to play, a lot of the kinks that we're seeing with the Founders Packs and the way they announced it and everything, I don't think those kinks would have been there. I think those kinks are a result of we took some extra time to decide about the business model. I don't know if we were overthinking it. I think they made the right call here at the end for an unknown IP in the West, one that isn't generally hugely successful in the East anyway, and my.com. I think they made the right call here, but God, the PR is just really, really bad.
Maybe that's why they jumped the gun on selling the Founders Packs. They have to hire actual English people or Americans to write their PR.
Yeah, I mean, it's just if you doubt us, just go check out any forum post that we quoted here today. It's very Google translated stuff, but I think they made the right call. Even though I was concerned that they weren't going to. And now we just have to wait until October for betas to begin. Speaking of used to be free to play. Ubisoft basically decided they don't like free-to-play anymore this past week, and even their buy-to-play stuff is having a bit of trouble. So, Duel of Champions, I know a card game that, Jason, you kind of dig for a little while there.
No, I didn't. No, I hated it.
You hated that
I hated it completely from day one.
You hated that game. I was so angry at that game. That game is closing down. So Might and Magic, Duel of Champions, gone. The Mighty Quest for Epic Loot, the build your tower and go nuke other people's towers, gone. Ghost Recon Phantoms, you may know it as Ghost Recon Online, gone. All of these Ubisoft free-to-play titles are shutting down sometime between now and the beginning of December, depending on which game. They all have various dates. No refunds, no exchanges. You can't buy currency anymore. So go in, have fun, and make sure you get anybody on your friends list some real contact information for them, because they are gone. And then the Division DLC, if you play the Division, that was delayed too. I mean, it's just like, what the hell is going on at Ubisoft right now, Zach? For crying out loud.
Yeah, I mean, the only one I'm really sad about is Ghost Recon Online, and I'm not even fully sad about that one because that game was full of hackers. I mean, let's be honest here. I was in it, I was really far into it, playing a lot of it for a while, and then I started getting aimbots in nearly every game, wall hackers, stuff like that, and I just uninstalled it. But it still was a game that I had a lot of fun with. Mighty Quest for Epic Loot, it had a lot of issues, including monetization and execution. And then the other one, I cheat didn't even play. This looked like a card game, and I looked at it, and it didn't really seem that appealing, so I just skipped it. It doesn't seem as though Ubisoft has issues right now. It seems as though they're trying to cut a lot of their operating expenses and try and focus it more on their current IPs that they really want to hard focus on, like The Division. And it's normal for Ubisoft games as of late to get delayed at least a little bit. As far as DLC, that's a debatable thing, but I think that's a good sign because we all think of Ubisoft as that developer that releases games full of bugs. So I don't think this is bad at all. I think they're just trying to focus on what's making them money, and that's a good thing.
Jason?
Yeah, I'm not really too put off by it either. Even judging by the fact that I didn't really care for their game so much. Just these are not stuff that we covered every day here, and we're like big money makers. And obviously some people love them, some people play them just by looking at the comments and see a few people being upset about it. But they were probably pretty small fries in Ubisoft with the Division and Assassin's Creed and all their other really big titles. Probably a few things they tried that didn't work out all that great, so they're just getting rid of them, trimming a little of the fat, so to speak.
Of course, there's the, well, you just like console gamers, so screw the PC gamers arguments going around about these decisions as well. What I find really ironic, though, is every post read the same, basically, as far as the shutdown. It just didn't do as well as we thought. But to be honest, I mean, Mighty Quest for Epic Loot hasn't been updated in forever. They made an announcement last year, basically, that they weren't going to update the game anymore, and that's the only reason the game's survived this long. And if you go and read any of those forum posts, the players that actually enjoyed these games have been providing feedback on here's why people are leaving, here's why they're not playing, and it's not like two people ranted about one thing and then Jason ranted about another thing. We're just finding the same things over and over and over and over. Multiple forum posts. Zach, you mentioned the botting and the hacking inside Ghost Recon. Not to mention that credit farming in game was ridiculously, abysmally slow.
Yep.
Almost forcing you to buy things, and that's immediately going to turn somebody off as far as that type of game goes. So it's like they had the information. They just didn't do anything with it. I can't blame them for shutting them down, but I can blame them for getting to this point where they had to shut them all down en masse because they had the information to make improvements, Zach.
Well, then on top of that, I mean, they also have, I think it's called Steep. It's a snowboarding sort of MMO type game coming out soon. I forget the exact name. That might be it. I'm not sure. But they're also have sort of rumors that there's going to be another MMO type game released, like announced as well soon, before the end of Q1 of 2017. And then also, a lot of their games just in general are moving more online based as well. So this could be sort of also a move to try and trim down the amount of resources needed on their end to keep certain games up, and also manage some games that they're publishing in order to free up space for their new projects that they're working on or are about to release. So it's sad to see games shut down, especially for those who actually like them. But it's unfortunately a business, and they gotta manage it efficiently.
What I think of too when you talk about them having all that information on the forums and not doing anything with them. I think about Nosgoth because that was something that people always complained about there too. Was how the players uncovered all these bugs, all these issues they had. They had put them all on the forums, and it never really got fixed. And then they eventually shut that down. So it just makes you think that there's just something wrong with the revenue model to the point where they couldn't afford to have the people take care of those things. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to see how Steep does. We don't have a ton of information about that one yet. We have, open world MMO winter sporting type
Yeah,
game.
I
that's
checked to make sure that was the
legitimately
correct name.
no, yeah, it is steep. I remember seeing the trailer for it. I think at E3 or something like that. So we'll have to take a peek and see what happens. But Ubisoft, for right now, pretty much out of the free-to-play market, at least on the PC. Jason, you mentioned revenue. MMOs from the East, specifically Korea, those companies, they're really hurting, it turns out. And I don't know if any of us is particularly surprised.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we got the report from, who was it? The Financial Times, talking about the crisis of the country's gaming market. As major companies, especially smaller companies, but also major ones like NCSoft and Nexon, having trouble, getting into mobile gaming, in part because the Chinese companies are doing so much better with them. But they see that money there. They see all that potential for mobile gaming, but they're having trouble making that transition, and it's probably hurting their business overall.
It's funny. We're going to go into mobile and make a ton of money, and then you realize, wow, we don't know anything about the mobile market. We should probably learn about that first, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, it's really one of those things where you kind of expected this to happen at some point, because the Korean market, especially just MMO market in general, is so saturated with MMOs that these development companies needed to swap to something eventually to try and maybe hop on the bandwagon of something else. And so what makes sense is mobile gaming, but the Chinese market, as stated even in the article, has done such a good job of capturing that already. And so since they already have a foothold there, it's going to be hard for these Korean companies to penetrate that market and then saturate that market with their own particular titles as well. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not they can, break into that market. But I think this is good just for the MMO industry as well, because maybe that means that we're not going to be getting a ton of MMOs, and maybe might get more innovative MMOs that will release in the future, which is definitely a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, over in the West, we've kind of figured that out. That all throwing out tons of MMOs doesn't work. So we've gone into whether it's a MOBAs or the team-based shooters or whatever. So we're at least diversifying a little bit. Maybe they'll get into that same sort of thing over there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to point out, is maybe the copy-paste, World of Warcraft train slows down a little bit now that you're seeing, it's not making money, and we hoped to make money in mobile, but we're getting killed by China, as the Korean market is. And those are big companies. I mean, you think Korean MMO companies, if you don't think about it for a second, maybe you don't think that's a big deal, but those are, NCSoft, Nexon, those are some big names in that area that are huge Korean MMO dealers. Speaking of finances disappearing, Firefall is closed, or maybe not closed, or closing, or was closed and is now open. Yeah, so basically, yesterday, Firefall fell off the map. Its website was down. You couldn't log into the game. There were a few people in it, and it was still on Steam. Then this morning, you were able to get on the website, and people were able to log into the game, but the game was missing from Steam, so was no longer on Steam, and it still isn't as of right now. However, it's supposed to be back up in the next day or two. And out of all of this, Red 5 has said nothing. Nothing, Jason. Not a word, except for one post today. And all that post says is that the servers are back online. We apologize for the unexpected downtime. Okay, no, you need more than that.
Maybe that was all the time they could afford for that employee. It's like 1 minute to post that. That was all they could afford, and he had to go home for the rest of the day.
And the only reply to somebody saying something about Steam was, it should be back on Steam. It's probably going to take a day or two. Unexpected downtime does not remove your game from Steam. I mean, there is something that you need to comment about here, Red 5. Wouldn't you agree, Zach?
Yeah, it's definitely a strange situation that randomly a game would disappear off pretty much the face of the earth and then come back, but still isn't on the platform that they just got onto and working, got onto a while ago, actually. I was thinking WildStar for some reason. But it's still a situation where it's like, guys, you need to at least explain this a bit more, even if it was just a hiccup, and there was something random that occurred or whatever. At least explain it to your users, because there's not probably a lot of them. The game is, on the hinges of possibly closing. So they need to know, hey, maybe the game will be up for a week, a month, or maybe there's no expected shutdown date, and I could still enjoy my game. Because I saw a lot of comments of people like, I wish I was able to take screenshots before this happened, thinking it was closed. And so it's like, guys, you got to explain this a bit more. Come on now.
You know who they need to get? They need to get the Iraqi information minister, one under Saddam Hussein during the Gulf War. They need that guy.
Their forums on, we want to take this, their last updates were, made, we want to take this into into consoles and mobile and stuff like that. Go look at their Twitter. The last tweet was May. They have a pinned tweet from November leading everything off. But the most recent tweets were on May 26th when they had some server outages they were investigating and whatnot. And now they're... Hey, we apologize. The servers are back online. Dude, your game got ripped from Steam. Okay, this was not just shit, what is going on? Are we being DDoSed or something? Your game got torn off of Steam. I have seen, and this is total speculation, total like rumor mongering shit to the point where I probably shouldn't bring it up, but it's too funny not to. I have seen speculation, Jason, that the person responsible for maintaining the server stability, the website, making sure everything's just up and running, has not been paid, and so they just shut it all off. That's total speculation.
I could believe it.
That's total speculation. But, somebody at a high level is the one that makes the decision to take the game off of Steam. And I don't think Steam is going to remove your game just because there's unconfirmed reports that your game has shut down. They're going to do their own investigation. So what caused that? You owe the players... And all few dozen of them an explanation of some type.
And we don't mean that, that it's there but you can't download it or anything. I searched for Firefall, I get nothing.
Yeah,
it
no
does
results.
not exist.
No results. It was still there yesterday. That's how the people that were playing were able to get in. But as of this morning, it's gone. And we do have the forum post from them saying it should be back in a day or two. But as of right now, you cannot go and search out Firefall. I believe that people playing on Steam that already have the game can still access the game through Steam. But you can't just go and find it in the Steam library. So very, very bizarre. We'll keep our eyes posted on this one as it continues to unfold. Red 5 just confusing the hell out of me. Very briefly before we go to the bombs today, if you're an EVE player, this might be good news to you. If you were an old school EVE player and you haven't come back in a while, they are putting in basically what amounts to a free trial so that you don't have to subscribe to play. They're making an alpha clone and an omega clone so you can roll up and get in game. You're limited by the skill set as a free alpha. You're limited by the skill set. You're limited by some abilities. You're limited by ships that are strictly your faction. So there are severe limitations on it, but you can play as much as you want, and then if you subscribe, you become Omega, and you get your full skill sets and everything like that, whether that's through Cash or through Plex. Is this enough to entice either one of you to jump into EVE? Because it's just not for me. EVE is not my thing.
The game seemed like it was always on a free weekend anyhow, so I mean, I didn't try it then, and I won't try it now. I tried it in the past, but it just... I don't know. It's not going to get me in.
Yeah, probably not. And what it could do, though, is it could bring back old players who came back and boost their numbers. It's going to boost their numbers in some way or another anyhow. To me, it feels like it's a little more than like the WoW level 20 free-to-play, but less than Guild Wars 2. I think it's sort of in between those two.
Yeah. That's a fair assessment, I would think, yeah. And nothing against EVE. I'm glad games like EVE exist and do well. It just gives me hope that other things will be created. I mean, we talked about, well, my DeBomb is right along those same lines. Just not for me. Daybreak, Jason, you want to talk about that real quick, or you want to save it for your bomb?
No, we'll talk about it briefly. Yeah, they're hiring for a new AAA first-person shooter, free-to-play first-person shooter. They have a position listed for a game director. Clicks all those boxes, so... Yeah, they're working on something, that's for sure.
Would you
But-
play another free-to-play game from Daybreak?
Now that's going to come later. That's going to come even later.
I just
Personally, yeah, I think I would. I would at least check it out. I mean, we'll see what kind of game it is, of course. But if it is, like, a lot of people are speculating, like a hero shooter, like Overwatch, that sort of thing.
I
I'll
think
look
you're
into it.
giving them a little bit of a pass here because of how much you did enjoy PlanetSide 2.
True, but I will sure as hell not spend money on it.
You're not going to buy a Founders Pack? Why not?
Yeah, can you imagine? Oh, they're going to sell like 3 Founders packs.
Zach, do you have any interest in anything Daybreak does right now, or have they just turned you off to the point that, go screw themselves?
It's not like Tryon for me. I'm not completely anti-Daybreak at this point. They still have DC Universe Online under their cloud, PlanetSide 2. They just have made a lot of bad PR choices as of late, and some weird, confuffles with like the H1Z1, splitting up into 2 games and becoming buy-to-play, and EverQuest Next shutting down, and then Landmark becoming its own thing. And so they've had a lot of weird things, of course. We've definitely talked about it here on the show. But I would try it out. I definitely wouldn't, commit to a Founders Pack. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, I was about to say, EverQuest Next shutting down was not a bad PR move. It was a little more than that. But
Yeah, right.
It was a bad PR move, just a really, really bad.
Yeah, that
PR
was all. Yeah, I was just miscommunication. Yeah, they actually weren't shutting it down, but then they accidentally put out the press release said they were. So I have to go through with it now.
So there you go, Daybreak. The Founders Packs are going to be a tough sell for you guys. But let's slide over to the weekly bombs. All right, I'm going to go first since I already kind of tipped mine with the whole EVE Online thing. I'm going to give a dub bomb to Ever Jane, the Jane Austen-inspired MMO that's getting a free-to-play treatment. Just like EVE, it might not be the game for me, but I like MMOs going in very, very different directions, even if it's not a direction that I'm keen on myself. It keeps the genre vibrant and full of options. And again, we mentioned earlier the whole cookie cutter thing really hurting Korean MMOs. I like when people branch off, and even if they're smaller projects, and try something, and maybe you hit something like EVE and you make fortunes of money hand over fist. So double bomb to Ever Jane. Go ahead, Zach.
Ever Jane actually kind of made me look back into Identity, which is like a Kickstarter funded sort of like next generation Second Life, not by the Second Life people, which is good. So yeah, it was nice that you guys were posting about that. But I'm going to give a dub bomb to Epic Games for Paragon. I've been playing the open beta quite a bit. I think I have about 20 plus hours on it already, and I've been enjoying it quite a lot. I didn't think I was going to enjoy a MOBA again. I was really adamant about not really trying a MOBA again, but the fact that the monetization model was sound definitely enticed me to try it out, and it's a really, really good MOBA. I've been definitely enjoying it.
Yeah, the speed of matches increase was the best thing that they could do.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
back when I did the first look, it was crawlingly slow. Go ahead, Jason.
And I'm going to give a meh bomb to Daybreak's new shooter because, on the one hand, I like the potential that it could have, but on the other hand, it's nice that they are working on something that they're not just closing up shop and canceling things left and right and not putting anything new. But man, it's just going to be hard to be optimistic about anything they say from now on. So it gets a meh bomb.
That's what happens. Die Fool says, Zach, I fucking love you, bro. I'm just going to spoil this because it's a complete waste of time. Don't rush to the center. It's just a repeat of the game. LOL. Nailed it. F you, No Man's Sky. F you. I'm still waiting on my Ferrari. Sorry, Magic Man. Don't feel jealous. I love you too, because where would we be without realistic assholes? So there you go, Zach. There were people pissed at you for spoiling that, by the way.
There was one I saw, but yeah,
they were not.
I mean,
happy.
I didn't really spoil it because it's just a repeat.
Go ahead, Zach.
Whom says Guild Wars 2 is boring, so I'm not surprised by the drop. I stopped playing that a year or two ago and picked up the Secret World instead. The combat system has much to be desired, but the story is one of the best out there.
And whom, that is exactly what I say every time somebody asks me why I play the Secret World. I know the combat sucks, but the rest of it is really awesome. Jason, you got a long one here.
Okay. From Hell, my bro from Hell. I actually played a game with him once, a long time ago. But anyway, I'm going to give Atlas Reactor a dub bomb. Yes, Tryon made some dumb shit in the past, but that aside, Atlas Reactor is still a good game regardless of the price tag. I started playing during the alpha testing, bought a Founders Pack, which isn't something I would normally do. Then real life got in the way and basically stopped playing completely for around 3 to 4 months or so. I finally came back and the game has lost nothing. It's still fun, easy to learn and balance, which is not something that comes around often. I can't comment on how good or bad the free option is, since I've always had full access to the game. From what I've read, it's nothing that won't let you enjoy the game, and I haven't seen anyone complaining about it, at least in a sensible way. The game is very different from other games, mainly because you can jump in and figure out the game pretty quickly. There's no math to see what combination of items do more damage. There's no having to buy card packs to get a better chance of getting the better characters or cards. There's no overly OP characters that can balance a match towards a team. It all depends on you using freelancers correctly, you paying attention to your teams and the enemy's team's movements, and you moving towards the right position and using the map to your advantage. Teamwork and communication actually matters. One player can't carry the whole team. Everything happens within the match. The outcome depends on how well you read what goes on during each turn and reacting to it, which is a thing that a real strategy game should do.
That's a pretty glowing endorsement of Atlas.
Yeah, I mean, I
Reactor.
mostly agree with him on the gameplay. I've liked playing it. I might give it another shot in the new free-to-play, see how that is. I'm just confused over all the different changes they've been making. I don't know.
Elusive X-Treasure says, "Da bomb for Ariel in Heroes of the Storm. I've been talking for months about how she should be a hero, so I was so excited when she was announced. Now that I've gotten to play her, she's definitely my favorite support hero, maybe even my favorite overall. Now, if they'll just give me Lillian Voss." Go ahead, Zach.
Jenny C. Gaming, Da bomb to Zach's grown-up haircut.
There were a couple people that like like the haircut. I told you.
No, I give the new haircut an A-bomb. I like the old one better.
Oh, wow.
All
right.
Yeah.
Split
That's about the reaction I always got when I worked at tech support for my old manager whenever I got a haircut. It's like, I like your long hair better. It's like, all right, cool.
Now I got to edit your character in Fallout Shelter.
I know, right?
Go ahead, Jason.
All right, UN says, small Da bomb to Atlas Reactor's closed beta. I started playing it again when they decided to add the new free-to-play mode, and I noticed a lot of their business models were influenced by Overwatches. And even though you have access to everything during the closed beta test, a lot of players are seem to like it enough to buy it.
Another one for Atlas Reactor. Another one. Sailor Naruto 39 says, A-bomb to Black Desert Online. I was afraid I was missing something, and I was trying to tell myself that I didn't waste my money, but I'm glad people are starting to lose faith because I got bored of that game way too quick. My biggest problem was the Tamer is a poorly designed class and what I was most excited for. The grind is tedious and unfun, so fuck it. I wasted $100, and now I'm never going to ever pre-order a game or get a Founders Pack, ever. Daybreak's going to be selling some soon for you.
He's probably already bought the Revelation Online pack.
Go ahead, Zach.
Michelle Sanctuary says, Da bomb to constant live updates of Path of Exile.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
They do a heck of a job with their expansions from what I'm...
Yes, they do.
Question of the week. Last week, we talked about communities previously. Now let's talk exploiters, bots, gold sellers. How would you control the flood of chat spam and protect your game's content? From Hell gave us this answer. I doubt anyone is willing to do anything about bots. Most games don't even seem interested in dealing with AFKers in any real way. If it were up to me, I would restrict them to only playing against bots, no earning XP, stats, in-game currency, no chat for 30-50 matches. Then after that, label them as cheaters or some other scumbag term for a year, so every time they log in, they and everyone else knows they're dog shit. After that, permaban, make it an IP and Mac ban, and don't allow players to use VPN to try and make it a bit harder for them to come back. I know some people can get around that, but most people don't want to put the effort into it. I mean, most people can't even figure out VPNs, even though it's easy. At some point, people have to realize that letting people get away with shit is just going to ruin the game, regardless of whether they spend money on the game or not. From Hell, brutal.
Wow.
Just brutal.
Yeah.
His policies are from Hell.
Yeah, living up to his name.
Go ahead, Zach.
Oh, I thought I was going to be third. I don't know why.
You're second to
second. I know, what second? Soul Card says, how about an in-game capture system that marks a player's state's XP and loot when they're pinged for a bot check? If you time out or fail to check, all your progress is rolled back to that prior point. The timeout period should be based on in-game time and be set to longer than an AFK logout timer, but still requires someone to complete the check on login. This should account for people that go AFK and are logged out for one reason or another, while excluding any bot scripts from avoiding the check with some sort of auto logout procedure. The end result should either eliminate unintended bot use on threat of no progress being made, or force people to babysit their bots, which essentially means that there's still a person attending their character, which likens the whole scenario more to that of someone using a gaming peripheral with macros.
I've actually played free-to-play MMOs that do that. Like every hour,
Man.
ping it'll. I can't remember the most recent one. It was a while ago, but it pinged a 4-digit sequence, random sequence of numbers that you then had to enter onto a keypad on screen, or it auto-logged you out. So I've definitely seen stuff like that used before. I was not in like a huge title the last time I saw it, but I've seen that in game before.
I could see stuff like that, like game guards and stuff, and stuff that prevents bots also affecting more graphical mods, though, like sweet effects, for example. I sweet effects every single game I play, and if a developer does not let me, it pisses me off because it just makes the game look so much better, and allows me to customize a lot more graphics options within their games. But if that was blocked, I would just rather have the bots and stuff, honestly. I'm just saying.
Go ahead, Jason.
Mindaugas Kostakovas says, "Are you a human checks? At first, need some kind of detection system for people who farm one spot, dungeon, do repeated actions, or just any similar bot detection system. But it should be wider, and everyone who is suspected on botting gets an Are You Human check. If fails, then the checked player is kicked from server and gets warning. After a few warnings, you get banned from the server." So kind of like From Hell, also pretty harsh.
He took they took the previous two and kind of combined them there.
Yeah.
D Draken says, "As much as I hate to admit it, I have to say the most efficient way to keep gold sellers away is to have a buy-to-play game. Well, that or having a team of moderators constantly banning gold sellers. One makes you money and one costs you money, so I wonder which one's the developer's going to lean towards."
Well, I think, too, that it's only moderately effective, because before Guild Wars 2 went free-to-play, I still saw them crop up quite a bit. So.
Black Desert Online with zero player trading as far as silver goes had a bunch of gold sellers that would just steal your account. So.
Oh, and every time, like when I would log into Elder Scrolls Online during its first month, I'd have like 4 emails from gold sellers. So.
Yep.
Question of the week. Would you even play a new Daybreak game, Daybreak shooter, or are you just so mad at them at this point, screw it, after EQ Next and some of the debacles that have gone on since the Columbus Nova acquisition? So let us know in the comments below. Make sure you leave your weekly bomb, bomb for something good, a bomb for something bad in the world of gaming, or hell, whatever the hell you want to talk to us about. Questions, comments, put it all in the YouTube comments or in the comments on MMO Bomb right under the video here. Until next week, Zach, where can everybody find you?
Everyone can find me on Twitter at Zach Sharps. I've been posting a bunch of random videos lately, and I started doing a random podcast as well called the Everything Gaming Podcast. So if you want to hear my thoughts on random stuff that's not MMOs or free-to-play related, that's a spot to do it.
What about you, Mr. Winter?
Well, you can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/JasonWinter, and I'm going to be streaming, I think, the recent story stuff, Knights of the Fallen Empire for Star Wars: Old Republic. I'm going to maybe go through the whole story on stream. That's kind of my plan. So if you want to check that out, follow me on Twitch or follow me on Twitter, where you can find out when I'll be streaming, at Winter Informal.
I'm Mike Byrne, a.k.a. Magic Man. You can follow me on Twitter at MagicMan1, MAGICKMANN1. Or, of course, come on over to MMOBomb.com, where we've got all the great articles, giveaways, videos, editorials, interviews, previews, reviews, and fun stuff. Just come on over, check it out, put all of your comments there when you're there. Until next time, stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.